Welcome back. I'm excited. Whenever Henry Glasheen comes to the show, he always brings fantastic, intelligent, well-spoken folks, and tonight is no exception. I'm pleased to welcome Representative Craig Powell from Heber City and Summit County Republican Chair Henry Glasheen. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Harry.
It's always nice, it's very casual in the summertime, so it's kind of nice to spiff things up a little bit around here. So I think we've all risen to the occasion.
Yeah, I was at Park City School Board meeting 2 days ago, and they said, didn't they stop you at the checkpoint on the way in and take that tie off?
Said you're
so, yeah.
Cut that tie off.
I understand the dress code, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we're all rising to the occasion. Craig, if you would, give folks just a kind of an overview, since I understand that you're since 2009, but still kind of in a race, so to speak, this year for your seat. And there's also been some redrawing of lines as well, which now includes us Parkites in your jurisdiction.
Right, yeah. Well, I live in Heber City, and when I was elected to the legislature in 2009, I began serving a district that covered Wasatch County, all of Duchesne County, part of Uinta County. It went out 100 miles. I called it the top legislative district in the state. Why? Because it included Kings Peak. The highest point in the state there.
Of course.
But with the redistricting, the rural areas of Utah faced a real challenge. And when I say rural, I'm talking about off of the Wasatch Front. So with the population base that is on the Wasatch Front, it meant that here in the local areas of Wasatch, Summit, Morgan, Duchesne, Uinta, the other areas that I've represented, there were even fewer seats that had to be split between all of these different counties. And so, the redistricting led to what I think is a fairly natural district. The Wasatch back here is, it's an economy. It's an area where people live and work together. Some people live in Wasatch, work in Summit, or vice versa. And so I'm really excited for the opportunity to be able to represent an area that I think is vibrant, growing, and really, one of the best areas in the state as a natural legislative district.
And I think you make a great point in that redistricting, to a certain extent, is a term that has been demonized a little bit, as though it's only a gerrymandering, it's only possible that redistricting is a gerrymandering thing, when in point of fact, this is a great example, as so many things are here in Utah, a great example of redrawing lines to make more sense out of the way that district is laid out, rather than less, or be for some underhanded means.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is a process that is largely driven by computers and numbers, and you do the best that you can. And then when you're elected to that district, you definitely represent the people the best that you can. And I think have to be responsive to the people in that particular area, which I feel I'm ready to be.
Very good, very good. I wanted to ask a question that I realize that it may be a little bit, most of the folks that are the most accomplished that we have on this show are also some of the most humble folks. But I noticed in reading about your background that you attended a particular university that I have a great respect for, and that's the University of Virginia. And,
that's right.
And the reason that I bring it up is that I have a very strong feeling that at every level of governance, while populism and fair representation of the people that live in the district, that sort of thing, is, of course, one of the great things about our system, but by the same token, I want the smartest guy possible representing me, or gal, at any level. And so, like I say, this may be a little bit of a difficult question to answer, but tell me what your thoughts are, because obviously, as a barrister, as a very accomplished in both the education and professional settings, a real smart guy, talk about what your feelings are toward why that's essential.
Well, I appreciate you with the compliments. I don't know if they're deserved. I think actually the only thing about some of my graduate training is that I just didn't know when to leave school. I think I've still been in school in my lifetime for longer than I've actually had a real job. But I did attend the University of Virginia, where I got both a law degree and then a PhD in political science in government. I really believe in the public policy process, and I think for me, process is is even more important than results. As long as things are open and transparent, as long as we know that our representatives are there doing what we want and they're playing by rules that are fair to all sides, then I think that our democracy is going to be okay. And that's really a lot what I learned in graduate school at Thomas Jefferson's University, as you say, University of Virginia.
And there's no schlubs that get into the University of Virginia, especially the law school. I know that for sure. So.
Well, and I have great respect for everybody on all sides of the political spectrum who studied there. I had professors who were liberals, professors who were conservatives, and at the law school there are all kinds of ideas that are discussed about policy and law. And so I think it was great training for me to be able to take back to other parts of the country where I've lived. I've lived in Utah for really not many years out of my life, most of the time outside of the state. I grew up in Seattle-Tacoma area. I went to a private liberal arts college, Willamette University in Salem, Oregon for undergrad, and then applied to several graduate schools around the country. Ended up there in Charlottesville, which is one of the favorite places that my wife and I have ever lived. Almost as beautiful as Park City.
Well played. So I guess there are a number of things that I'd love to talk about, kind of maybe a little bit more issue-oriented. Let's start with education, because I know that you have membership on the subcommittee.
Education committee, that's correct.
The education committee, and I think that for many reasons solutions are one thing, but I always feel like it's a unifying issue in as much as how can we not all rally around putting together the best public educational system that we absolutely can.
We face a really strange dynamic in Utah with public education because we have a conservative legislature, conservative political environment, and yet compared to most other states, we have more public schools per capita than I think most other states. In other words, the conservative bent that you read in all these national conservative publications always talks about vouchers, about private schools, about making sure that our public schools toe the line and that they're acting like a free market and all of that, and especially about having competition and options. And I'm very much in favor of making sure that our public schools are efficient, that they're doing things in a manner that we as legislators are overseeing them. But you know what? Public schools are where it's at for most of the United States, and especially for Utah. So we've got to focus our resources on public schools. We've got to be very smart about it. And I think that even our Republican leaders, such as Governor Herbert at this time, Governor Huntsman definitely before him, have believed that by putting more resources, yes, government dollars, public funds, into those public schools, we end up growing our economy. And I think that we're seeing that. So I'm a huge supporter of public education. And that's actually probably the main reason I got in the legislature. My wife and I supported several school bonds and became politically active with that over in Wasatch County. And through that, I came into the legislature as a friend of public education and immediately asked to be on the education committee.
Well, on behalf of all of us who hold that as a near and dear issue, thank you for your public service work in that regard. Let's do this. I've got a couple of other things that I'd love to talk to you about. And of course, we got to catch up with Henry over there as well. Always a guest of honor. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back right here on Mountain View. Stay tuned.
Wherever